Hello, everyone. Welcome to Monday Night Roundup on Bloodbowl Live. We're back with the start of the season. We've had some games being played already. We've got 9 games to go through, and once again, I am joined. I'm not on my own like last season. I'm very happy to be joined by Tom of the Blackpink Bloodletters. Yet again, thank you for coming back, Tom. And our special guest Jane from the Wolverhampton Shamblers coming to join us to talk about her game. Jane, welcome to Bloodbowl Live.
Oh, hi, Chris. Very happy to be here um,
It
on
is
this prestigious channel.
It is lovely to have you. It's nice to have some company. No Scott this week, so you're our Scott for the day. And we'll dive straight into. We've got 9 games to get through, so we'll fly through them. And we're going to start with your game. If I can move the screen I've got in front of me to your game. Quite fitting that 2 seasons in a row, the champion has been the first game played, because I think Rich was the first game played last season.
Hey, and
So
a sellout crowd as well. I'm at 180,000. The stands were packed. Unbelievable turnout for the first game.
yeah, I mean, you had like the winnings that you guys got from this game are mouth-watering. Like it was just incredible.
Yeah.
Before going into detail on the game, I don't want to speak. How did you feel when your group was drawn? Because I think we're all accepting that your group looks terrifying. So how did you feel?
It's quite tough. I was listening to the others saying how what a tough group it was, and thinking, okay, yeah, it's a tough group. It is a tough group, but yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. They're a really nice bunch of people, and yeah, just great fun to play against as well. So great fun to play a game with.
How did it go against John? Did you want to play John first because John is reigning champ, or was there any good team to play first in that group?
There's no good team to play first in that group, but anyone you get up first against with the team I've currently got, I'm going to get a stack load of inducements. So yeah, I took the Frankelheim, which was some fun mutations that might stick. So that was a bit of fun to get the game going. But yeah, none of them are going to be that easy, and I'm not sure this is a team for this season, to be honest. But we're just going to have a lot of fun out there with zombies, really.
What mutations did you get with Frankelheim?
I got Iron Hard Skin and uh, Foul Appearance.
Foul appearance is decent. Like I've come a crop of it several times, and it's very frustrating. Did it? I guess did it work?
It didn't work, but he had to roll a few
Okay.
dice, which obviously causes a bit of tension there and stuff. And I think the most frustrating thing with John Woe was the regeneration, because he killed nearly all my positional players that could be regenerated. He killed both my positionals, and they both came back immediately. And yeah, he hated it.
Tom, is Jane's here, so I'm not
Hmm.
gonna so this John obviously won 2-0, which is a very John result. And looking at when he scored as well, he scored. Well, actually, the touchdown on turn 12 surprised me. The touchdown on turn 8 didn't, because John loves a stalling scoring at the end.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
obviously he had to yeah, they had to yeah, get the ball off me to start with on the first one, so that's the reason that was there. But I think he was pretty secure in the victory, and I think he was just being nice. And plus the fact I had a whole load of zombies shambling over to the corner who might have annihilated his Valkyries. So
Uh,
we had a few KOs, but no serious casualties, unfortunately. So no additional members of the team, but we are ready
Yeah.
to accept new players at any death.
I was fortunate enough to come into the store and see the second half, and I could tell you that for John, the regeneration was a bit of frustration for him. He had a bit of a forced smile on his face. He'd done all the hard work, and they just kind of wandered straight back on the pitch. So that may be the reason why he wanted to kind of just finish it off and score on turn 12, just to make sure he had
Yeah.
him there.
I
Those
guess
Valkyries with strip ball, though, I need to find an answer for that, really.
I believe there is now a bounty on one of them. I think one of them maybe. If it doesn't have it now, it's coming its way. I think it's definitely due. Um, I mean, I guess like coming up against John in the first game. John takes 5 points away from this. You were very close to the casualty point because you got 2 casualties from it. But you come away with it to your next game with a full roster. So, I mean, that's better than a lot of people after their first game. So.
Yeah, I'm not unhappy with that result at all. Like reigning champion, certainly gave him some food for thought at the beginning, and I learned a lot in the game as well. I'm new to playing the team. I've only done a couple of games pre-season. They are a huge amount of fun, and also I sort of leaning into the role-playing side of things as well. I love the zombies. I'm actually falling in love with my zombie linemen, and they're like staggering inability to move or do anything really apart from just lurch at other players, which is a great fun. And I think the other thing that was also frustrating, John, if you walked in a bit later on, was I was doing a substantial number of uphill blocks with the zombie lineman on his players, and it was starting to frighten him because they were going through. Eventually, they would just go through.
So your next game is tomorrow against Scott, against Tetanus Hotspurs.
Yeah.
More confident or less confident than when you faced John at the weekend?
I don't know really. I mean, I've still got nothing to lose with any of the team really at the moment, which is quite a nice position to be in. Haven't got any star players, haven't got anyone I'm morbidly attached to. So realistically, I'm just throwing stuff out there and having a lot of fun, especially with, like I said, with the zombies, who I am treating as utterly disposable.
I mean, that's a good shout. To be fair, I've not played. Tom, have you? Because I've not played undead before. So have you played any undead before? Because I wouldn't know where to start with with sort of 4 movement zombie linemen.
No, I haven't either. But I'm loving your form there on the basis that you have nothing to lose, and you've got 2 serious players who've redrafted and are clearly a bit worried about some of their big team, the big players. You know, you could literally go in there and start smashing up his team, making it really difficult for him.
I took the big Yeti ogre thing down twice, and one of those was on an uphill block.
I love it.
And that was, I think, John's face when I did it was just like, you can't play like this. This isn't how you play Blood Bowl.
Well, we'll move on to the next game. Jane, please stick with us for as long as you can today. But we'll go on to the next fixture, and the next fixture that I thought we would look at is we're going to go from one champion to another. Rich got his season up and running, our other 2-time champion. Tom, are you surprised that he's gone off to a winning start against the Underworld team?
No, not really. Although there seemed to be a heck of a lot of fouling going on from one side. It seemed to be a bit like we've said about some of these games. There's clearly people who like to play a traditional game of scoring touchdowns, and then there's others who like to play a little bit loose and free, especially with the fouling going on. Which, you know, I've always fallen quite literally foul of a fouling when I've scored and just kept rolling doubles. It's the only time I ever roll doubles is when I try and foul. But clearly, you know, we've got someone who's willing to risk it all and having good fun with it.
I think, Jane, you played Nick at least once against this team in the King of the Streets last season. I haven't played Nick since season 4. He was in my group in season 4 when he was really brand new to the game, which went to my advantage bluntly in those scenarios. But he seems to, every time I see a fixture of his come up or a game he plays, he seems to slowly be finding a groove with a team, and he seems to really love this Underworld team and be really improving each time he plays.
Yeah, I mean the first time he played them, I think it was a game that I was in, and yeah, I think he fell in love with them pretty much immediately. Just saw the potential for, again, like, leaning into the role playing side of it, playing them as like a nasty, evil bunch of like running, dashing around the place, biting people, and just utterly chaotic. And I think that whole, rather than trying to play a tactical dice rolling game, grabbing a team and going, who is this team? What do they do? And just playing the game like that makes it a lot of fun, and produces a few surprises for some of the players who are possibly thinking more tactically.
I think in this one, I believe in this game, I was playing my game at the time, so I don't know a huge amount, but I do know that Rich pulled off almost a double crowd surf, almost got 2 players down and 1 in the crowd in a crowd surf in this game. Nick, I think Nick threw a goblin or a snotling into a cage and took out 3 of the 4, possibly the ball carrier on 2 sides of the cage. So there was quite a lot of kind of chaos being chucked around in this one. And I think it could have been 2-0 to the Rams. I think they nearly had that second touchdown. Nick managed to stop that with some kind of ballsy, just chucking everything at it play. Nick does seem to just play for fun, like which is really entertaining, to watch. So he's in a group with 2 champions. Not the group of death, but still a group with 2 champions. I think Rich has a good chance of coming out of this group. Do we think Nick can? Do we think Nick can join him?
I think there's a good chance. Oh, sorry, go on, Tom.
No. I was about to say there is a good chance because, again, people playing randomly, not sticking to the traditional script, can definitely cause some disruption and cause some surprises. Yeah.
I'm actually going to have to go. My pudding is ready apparently, and I can't possibly wait for that. So it's been lovely being here with you guys. Look forward to seeing you all next week.
Yeah.
And say hello to Bella.
Thank you for joining us, Jay. We'll see you another time.
Yep. Cheers, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
A big thank you to Jane for joining us. I knew she couldn't join us for long today, so thank you to her for coming in. Tom, I guess we'll go on to the next game, which I even wrote down a list of which games to do in kind of which order. And I think the next one that I did want to go to is your game against the Greystone Gladiators. 2-1 to the Elves in the end, and the bits that I caught on the stream saw it being quite even until it suddenly wasn't.
Yeah. I thought I'd come on here as a kind of bereavement counselling session, to be honest. I thought I was doing okay. The dice were against me in the second half. I managed to draw it up level at just before half time to 1-1. But unfortunately, in the second half, just was rolling ones everywhere and double sculling as well, which didn't really help. So it was an interesting game. It's I'm now part of the Hate the Elves fan club, like everyone else. So, but it'll be interesting to see how other vampire teams play. And I know we've already had another vampire team play, so it'd be interesting when we maybe get onto that one to kind of hear how that one's panned out. But they're very, very tricky team to play, to be honest.
I think it does seem to be. Is as soon as the ones start to come and for you, like some of the bits that I caught, it suddenly it was just one after one after one after one after one, and I think I would think if you start the game like that, you'll start off on a really bad foot, but you can recover. When you end the game like that, there's not a lot you can do, and if they were at least a bit more spread out, you can kind of manage it because it's not happening all the time. But when they just start, I guess things just become out of your hands when they just start to come one after the other.
Absolutely. And also not taking anything away from Justin, because he knows the game back to front, everything along those lines. He's played his elf team multiple times in multiple leagues, I'm assuming, and clearly other tournaments. So he was already a very difficult competition, but he played it fair. He just clearly had elf dice as well, because they were just coming up with, the lowest I ever saw was rolled was a 3. So when you're dealing with elves and their lowest dice roll is a 3, you haven't really got much of a chance.
So on Justin then, because he's now got a catcher which is he was able to up to movement 9, so he's got a movement 9, strength 3, agility 2 catcher out there, which has 2 bounties on its head currently. So people absolutely gunning for that catcher. I think strength wise, you do outbeat him, and it was very much, it did seem pretty even until the second half. Um, do you think based on that game, he got 3 points for the win, he got a point for his 3 casualties. Um, do you think it's a battle for second and Justin's coming out of this group, or do you think it will be sort of somewhat more even?
I think we'll have to wait and see really till some more games are played. I know he's playing Harrison next, the Buffalo Biggins, I think. So that should be an interesting one to see whether he gets a bit of a pounding, and some of his team, unfortunately, fingers crossed, are injured. So I think I've played him a couple of times. He's a very competent player. He knows every trick in the book. But again, a bit like the last last teams we've mentioned, he is a redraft. He's got targets on most of his teams back, and when one of them goes out, or if one of them is injured, that could spell a bit of disaster for him.
We'll see if he can keep his team going for his next team. Harrison's bringing one of the a Bashir team. He's bringing Orcs along, so we'll see what he can do there. Before we go on to the next game, how did you find Bryce the Slice as a star player?
Unfortunately, terrible. I did take him with the thought of I'll cut some things up. The worst I did was a push, and then he got taken out, unfortunately, because they scored in the second turn. So didn't really get any chance to make a big impact. I was hoping he would. My takeaway from that, my positive, was that I'm really liking Hypno Gaze. You buddy up a couple of vampires, one hypno gaze and the other one just runs straight through. Really nice. Or hypno gaze and then come in and blitz them. That was quite effective as well.
Yeah, it sounds the hypno gaze is terrifying when you slowly start to lose players to it. It's just sort of all your protection vanishes, and it is horrible. We'll go from one vampire game, like you said, we'll go to the next vampire game. We'll go to a couple of games in this particular group, in Nixon group. And we've got Castlevania Bloodthirsters versus the Wordhollow Wanderers. We've got 2 games for Simon in a row, and I'm sure Simon won't mind me saying that for some of this game and for some of his next game, his fantastic season 5 dice that got him through to the semi-finals have taken a break, and Simon is back to some of his rather unfortunate dice rolls from previous seasons. Looking at this one, there's a lot of fouling and sending off from the vampires, and we got vampires taking the lead in this one. I mean, Underworld versus Vampires, there's a lot of strength in that team to take out all the goblins and all the snotlings. Even a thrall can take out a goblin and a snotling, so you don't need to worry about that. How do you feel you would have fared against? I guess this is another agile team because they've got the gutter runners in it. So, do you think is the Underworld team easier because there's less strength 3 and more strength 2?
Not quite sure, really. There seems to be a lot of death straight off the bat. On turn 1, a goblin was dead, so he was already down a player right from the start. And like you've mentioned there, they've got quite a few fast players, but they're not very strong on strength. And you've got lots of vampires in this team. So you've got a lot of strength 4s, and everything's minimum strength 3, especially with all your alignment. So it was an interesting one to actually see and look through when the tour play was bringing in the results on that side of things. So I think with the Underworld, a bit like with the Vampires, it sounds like it was down to the roll of the dice.
I think Simon did have some bad rolls, but again, it's tricky because you want to acknowledge when someone has bad rolls as the result of going against them. But again, not to take anything away from Tom, who who had an amazing run of form with his vampire team coming into the league. He won, I think, won 5, drawn 1, lost 1. So he had a really good sort of pre-season. Taking 2 throwers, a blitzer, and a runner into that team. So looking at his roster, all strength 3 and 3 strength 4s, compared to strength 1s, 2s, and then a few 3s, and then the Rat Ogre. I think this group is tricky to call, but I think my money is on Tom to get out of this because he does know what he's doing with this team, and that's not to say Simon absolutely knows what he's doing with his Wanderers team. Um, I think. I think Simon was clearly unlucky in his first couple of games, and even unlucky to not get that extra casualty with the Rat Ogre or something to give him a little bit, to at least take a point away from it. So we'll move on to Simon's next game, which was against Kid Gloves, which was 2-2, and I was playing next to this game, and this game was utter chaos. Like this was madness, and there's a bounty on Simon's Gutter Runner. Just to note the skills on that Gutter Runner. So Animosity, Dodge, Sidestep, Sprint, Monstrous Mouth, Sure Feet. Currently with 19 unspent SPP ready for a stat upgrade. In not long, because it keeps getting MVP, and Simon doesn't want that. Simon doesn't want any more MVP, because he doesn't want to put more of a target on its back. Um, Harry probably was doing what I would have done, and Harry with his kid gloves, I don't know if you'd have done the same, Tom, was just trying to get rid of that Gutter Runner, was just trying to target it and get it off the pitch.
Yeah, like you say, when you've got players of that caliber on the pitch, they're just too tempting, really, aren't they? You really just want to have a pop at them every 5 minutes. And it looks like Harry's team is pretty strong as well. So you've got all the horns. You've also got a Minotaur in that team as well, which was doing pretty well.
And
so
yeah,
good.
Absolutely nailed it as well. Like turn 4, casualty badly hurt. Gets another casualty on turn 7, being 1-0 up. I mean, very quick sort of back and forth. And Harry had played one game of Blood Bowl before this game.
Wow.
And Simon, some credit to Simon for being very patient and very helpful, because Harry was brand new, sort of guiding him on what he could and couldn't do. But Harry got off to such a good start with the injuries, getting an early lead there, which Gutter Runners did what they do and come back straight away. But then another casualty on turn 7. Another casualty on turn 9, another casualty on turn 11, another casualty on turn 11, another casualty on turn 11. I don't know whether they didn't move the turn marker, but turn 11 looked great. He just absolutely went for it, and we've seen that with the Chaos teams before, with Rich's team, they can beat the crap out of you.
Yeah. Well, the fact is that Minotaur got 3 badly injured straight out, or badly hurts. Granted, they were against Snotlings, but hey, that's really good for SPP on
Yeah,
that Minotaur. So
absolutely.
you might,
I
he's
mean,
definitely taken the
Looking at the roster, a Beastman runner has got enough for a random primary. He's already given block to a chosen blocker off the back of that game. And the Minotaur's got 6 SPP ready to choose a primary as well. I mean,
Wow.
that team immediately is looking as good as some that have been redrafted in. So he's done such a good job for his first outing.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to get his approach on why he chose Chaos Chosen, because it's not a natural starting team as far as I'm aware.
No, they're an interesting one to start with because you've got your chosen blockers very strong, not any skills to them. A lot of horns there. I guess there's not a lot of skills to have to be on top of, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um, and I think if you come into the game and you want to beat the crap out of things, maybe they're a good one to go for, and Harry's done that. So well done. 22 SPP from your first league game. Absolutely amazing result. And I think Simon would have been happy to get a point on the board. I think he would have been hoping for a win there. You know, his group is looking tough, and Scott has not played with his rats yet, and Scott knows how to play those rats, so it'll be interesting. I think we're looking to stream Simon versus Scott later in the week as well, so we'll see how they get on there. And we'll dive on to the next one and the next game. And I think he was on the stream earlier, and I'm hoping he's still on the stream. We are going to jump into if I can figure out how. There we go. Into Toxin Runners versus Flumps, and um, the enthusiasm that Scott has of the Flumps. He's here. He's watching. So hi, Scott. I love his enthusiasm so much, and his love for this team, his love for goblins, and the way he likes to play, and going for all stunties. And he went out there to splat some rats, and he splattered some rats. What I mean, he did it. Like he nailed it, Tom.
Yeah, I actually saw the second half of this, and it was crazy. It was absolutely hilarious. Unfortunately for the rats, he nearly pitch cleared them on the basis. Those hooligans were absolutely crazy with their frenzy, which was I can't remember exactly what it was, but something beer was an
The
inducement he gave
bottles of
them.
heavy brew.
That's the one. Yeah. So they were just frenzying all over the place. Yeah. And again, dice were with him. You know, Nuffle had clearly blessed them. It was a very interesting game to watch. Really good fun.
Scott's on the chat, and he's saying that to be fair to the Rat team, Gutter Runner failed 2 pickups on turn 2 and 3. With rerolls when he was 1 square from soaring. So I think Scott's dice were with him and Graham's dice were also with him, which always helps. Watching this one sort of unfold on tour play. I played Rats last season, so immediately seeing turn 1 a badly injured Blitzer did make me wince quite a lot because that does hurt. And then later on, I think a different Blitzer is killed later on in the game on turn 10. To lose both your Blitzers so quickly and have one of them out, they're not like the Gutter Runners are the most expensive, but the Blitzers are good positionals and they're not cheap to replace. So that is going to have been painful. What so the tactic is working, I would say. What did you think of the tactic of only ever taking stunty players? Because it seems to be doing all right.
I think it definitely lulled them into a false sense of security. Because I think it's that thing where, depending on skill level or how long you've played the game, when you see a big guy on the pitch, you always just back of your head, just go and give him a kicking. Just a little bit of a trophy, a little scalp kind of thing. But there weren't none there, so you kind of get the opposite of like, this is going to be a breeze. I'll just walk over these. They're all strength 2, nothing too serious. but they just ganged up and started going crazy.
Looking at the Goblin roster now, there is a Goblin there with 9 SPP waiting to go. There's one there with 3, so that could take a random. One with 4 could take a random. One with 5, one with 3. And you've got the Looney has dodge, the Ball and Chain, the Fnatic has Mighty Blow +1. There's some, there's some terrifying looking there. And in contrast to sort of what the Skaven team look like now, Gutter Runner is missing the next game. A lineman is missing the next game, and I think let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and going to be taking some journeyman as well. So I probably not the way we necessarily thought that way would go. Um, Scott is reminding me as well that the gutter runner that is missing the next game has had stat busted movement.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
and I think also I believe when you say he's not taking any big guys, I believe Scott can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's also pushing that through to his inducements as well.
Yeah.
So he's only taking. So in this game, he took Bomber, Dribble Snot, and Fungus the Loon, and I think he didn't even get his bomber onto the pitch. He'd been causing that much destruction. Didn't need to bring a second bomber onto the pitch. So good on him.
I'm loving now I do know as well because Scott did tell me before the after the game. He did sort of try to stall his last touchdown as long as possible. Got that touchdown in on turn 16, and instead made the most of going elsewhere and just trying to beat the crap out of as many rats as he could and splat as many rats as he could. So, played some really sort of strong tactics as well. Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to face him in that Goblin team in that group. I think I called. I think I said he could upset some people. He could get through to the last 16. I think I gave someone else best stunty, and I think James and Robert with their stunty teams are going to be looking at this result and be a little bit concerned. I think there's going to be some worry about that best stunty prize. We'll move away. Scott, thank you so much for watching, and I've already spoken to Scott. He's going to come join us on a future roundup as well to talk about another game. And we get to 3 more games to go through, and these are all from my group. Tom, I'm gonna rather than me just natter on, I'll tell you the game, and you feel free to ask me what you want to know if I was in it.
Sure.
And we'll start with 2-1 victory for the Scale Marys against my Bitey Ducks, played on Sunday morning.
How was it?
I mean, Dave played great. Dave has built such a great Lizard team. He's built a really strong squad. There was no point in meeting him strength for strength because he's got so much guard. He's got mighty blow. He's got block all over the place. So I went for dribble and drull to get the sneaky get and to get the stab, and I think that was the right way to go. I think it absolutely was. Conceding on turn 16 to lose the game and take no points away did hurt, if I'm honest, because I think up until that point, I think in the second half I was causing more problems than I had up until the last couple of turns, and I had a turn around turn 13 or 14. I could blitz a skink off the pitch, or I could go for the ball carrier, and I had lots of people marking the ball carrier, so I went for the skink off the pitch, and I think in hindsight I should have done the other move. So yeah, taking no points and getting no casualties, no points at all, was painful.
Yeah, I can imagine. Are you because obviously you switched quite halfway through drafting season because you were originally with a human team. So are you still comfortable? Are you still comfortable with your lizards?
Yes, I absolutely. Uh, there's so much fun, and I think they're quite simple because they don't come with many skills to begin with, but you can do a lot of bashing, you can do a lot of dodging, so you can kind of do the best of both worlds. I had so much fun in both of my games, and playing Dave was so much fun. Um, uh, so I definitely made the right. I definitely think I made the right call, and I'm here with the right team. Um, and I think I think getting out of the group is going to be difficult, but I think I'll scrape it.
Is that the first time you've played against lizards with your lizards?
It is. It is. So it's only the second time the first time I'd ever played against lizards was last season against Dave Rue's reptiles, and
Mm.
they were which the tactic was take out the skinks, and I did that and it worked. Dave's team were the scale areas were a lot more difficult to get to the skinks. That was tough. And I got his sneaky get off very quickly with stab, and trying to use those extra skinks that I had to do the stabbing, which was sort of mixed effective. So I think that's maybe I think that's probably part of my own fault, really, why there were so few casualties for me in this one, because I did there is a casualty. One of the Saurus blockers went off, another Saurus blocker went off. I think actually there may have been oh no, sorry, not the Saurus blockers. So there's a skink that was badly hurt. Um, and that was it, actually. Even with the stab, I only took one off, so that's only sort of 3 SPP I would have missed, not enough for a point. So um, I would the one thing I was most pleased with was back when because this was the first team I ever played as, um, and I would just always go for the kind of the typical Mighty Duck shenanigans and stuff like that. So my touchdown that I got in this game was dodging out of a prehensile tail in order to mark a player, and then with the ball carrying skink doing a 2 dice blitz on a player in the way to push them out of the way, to then do 2 or 3 dodges to get past other players in the way, and then a double rush in order to score. So to pull that off was like, I think that if I hadn't done that, I might be even more downhearted. But the fact that I did that, I was like, I've picked the right team. These guys are so much fun.
Yeah, and you still managed to get enough SPP to kind of bring some more skills to your team by the looks of things.
Yes, yes. So I did manage to get so left this game with a frenzy on a Saurus and a jump up on a skink. I went so we'll move on to my second game. I left this game thinking, oh, I don't really want frenzy, to be honest. I'm not overly keen on getting that one. And then within maybe 2 or 3 turns against Fink Mob and having used Frenzy to great effect, I was like, I'm loving Frenzy. Frenzy's fantastic.
Very cool. So what did you use the frenzy on in the Fink Mob game?
It was useful for clearing big gaps for cages. I actually had a moment where I could frenzy off the pitch. I think I may have got one frenzy off the pitch. I think the good thing about having frenzy on them is they don't come with any skills. If you're playing Corn or you're playing a team that has frenzy built in, you kind of you're aware when you go into it that you've got to face frenzy, so you play a bit differently. You don't go on the sidelines. Um, when you're playing a team that shouldn't have frenzy, you forget. So then, as the and I've done it so many times. I've done it so many times. I've been sat there and I've forgot a werewolf's got frenzy, and I've stuck a Saurus just there, and then he's come. He's just said, "Well, I'm going to blitz that Saurus," and I go, "Yeah, yeah, of course you are." Like I've done it so often, and then in this game, being on the other side and going, "He's not that. Oh, that's yeah." Gonna go for that one. Was great fun. Yeah.
And especially with a strength 4, movement 6 player as well with Frenzy on it. That's a big difference. That's because, like you say, with the likes of Korn, yeah, they've got Frenzy, but they've got Strength 3, so you can often find yourself doing uphill rolls, but with Strength 4, you're pretty comfy there. That you can go in and you know that both of those blocks or both of those dice rolls are potentially going to be 2 die.
Yeah, it was less to worry about. I did make sure that on the odd occasion, because I had a journeyman skink for this game, because I lost to Saurus in the last one, so I did sort of dodge a journeyman. I thought, well, he can die, I don't mind. So put him somewhere so I could then know that my blitz, sort of my frenzy blitz, was safe. So yeah, I mean, I was happy with. In a way, I was happy to win this game, having lost against the Lizards. But I also again, it's another point that I lost because of a turn 16 touchdown that I just couldn't quite defend against. So that was again a bit painful. So because I would have liked the 4 points. I tried for the casualties, but there were just a couple of turns near the end. Andy's players just got fired up, absolutely, and I gained a so badly hurt Saurus off the pitch, niggling injury on my skilled up lineman, so he'll miss the next game, and then killed a Saurus, which really scuppered my kind of plans, and really was painful, because I've had to spend the money to replace that Saurus rather than on the Croc score that I had the money for. So um, yeah, so that's another one of my players that's on an opposition team now.
Oh yeah.
So I'm spreading the love. Yeah, Andy played really well as well, and Andy did really well in the second half. He sort of learned in the first half how I could run around things, and in the second half was like, well, you're not going to run around things anymore, and made that really difficult. So absolute credit to him. Another undead team doing well, and another team that neither of us has played. So when it comes to undead, we're just like, great.
Yeah, I think that's the nice thing about the whole league, really, that there is a variety of players and also teams. So you're genuinely coming across teams that you've never played against. Not jumping ahead, but I've got my game against the Vampires, in my league, in my division on Friday. So we'll see how that goes. So it's Vampires versus Vampires. So it'll be a bit like you, the Lizards, this week. How will that work out? How do I work out what, can I hit my games? Will that work? Won't that work? So it'll be an interesting position to see.
We'll go on to the last game of the week, which I think is the last game of the week. I've not missed any, I don't think. Which is so our group had a bumper game, and I would anyone who's watching or listening or whatever, if you do get the option at all to get all 4 of you playing sort of at the same time, have a day of games. It was so much fun. It was really, really, really great fun. Like we all met each other. We all said hi. We had our games, and there was that element of kind of looking over each other's shoulders. I kept every opportunity I had to wander away from my game to check whether Dave had got any more skills on his Saurus was an opportunity I took. So that was really it was a great atmosphere. So Dave went from one victory to another. A good day for him.
So was this his second game or his first game?
So me and Dave played at 10 a.m. and then we both played in the afternoon. So this was his second one. So I don't think he went into this particular game with additional skills, but he certainly came out of this game with a lot of additional skills on his Saurus. It's a scary looking team now. It's not one. It's one that it's even more terrifying to play it a second time than it was the first. You played Orcs last season, so how would you have you played against lizards before? Like, would you have liked your odds against the skinks and the sauruses?
Sure. Yeah, I played against lizards, but not to my recollection with my orc team. Um, your tactic, as you mentioned previously, would have been my way of playing, which is just knock out the skinks and then try and meet the sauruses on even ground with the big uns, and then bring in your blitzers. Um, I know that orcs play a more central position on the pitch, so it's interesting. You know, when I think of what I'm playing with at the moment, orcs and then obviously what I'm playing vampires are two completely different ones. So it's a bit like you found your love back for your lizard men because you know how they play. I'm
Mm.
now trying to work out how mine play. So I'm surprised. While looking at the injuries, well, crummies, it looks like there was some bad luck on the dice, or very good luck on the dice, on the Scale Mary's side. Because like turn one, turn three, turn four, injury miss next game on an alt blitz alignment. Injury miss next game on a blitzer, and then injury -1 strength stat on a big and blocker. That's seriously like, oh, I'm feeling their pain
Mm. And
on the orc side.
that's all by turn four. That's such an awful
Yeah,
start. You're immediately. I think in his roster he had one. I think he had 12 players in his roster, so he did have one to spare. Um, but I think that one to spare went pretty quickly as well. Yeah, absolutely. The injury dice were. Dave struggled with armor breaks against me, and all his armor breaks came in this second game. He was rolling 10s, 11s, 12s constantly. Which was just
yeah,
just incredible. Um, Skink scoring just before the half. The one thing is difficult to kind of read on tour play, which would be great to see, is for it to sort of highlight easier when we're looking through a game who started the half. It'll be interesting to see whether Dave broke through in that first half and took an early lead and then um, scored sort of with the receiving the ball in the second. Two late touchdowns. Billy the Skink with a load of fouls. Um, Now Billy the Skink has got sneaky git. He's now got two players with sneaky git. I and he did this last season as well. Seemed to foul as much as possible with that sneaky git, or as much as he could. I don't know how you feel about this. I always have in my head that I will only try a foul if losing that player will not put me at a disadvantage against the opponent.
yeah. Um, I kind of start fouling in desperation, to be honest. I when that's the only time I start kind of fouling. Even when I was playing my orcs last season, I was very wary of how vulnerable, even when you're a player down, you can become, especially against a team that's got speed and strength on it.
Yeah, that's the thing. The lizards have, for what they lack in those skills, they are movement six at a worst. They've got dodge on the quick guys, and as soon as you start to get, I mean, looking at the sheer number of skills on this team, Skink with sneaky get, Saurus with block, Saurus with block and guard, Saurus with block and guard, Saurus with mighty blow, kick maybe you wouldn't want on a Saurus, but got it there. Croxagore with Frenzy and Guard, Saurus, Thick Skull, Skink, Sneaky Get, Sneak, Diving. So many skills there. Um, I think the what he's maybe missing is the Skinks. The skills the Skinks have got have made them sort of good at specific areas. Where his strength guys have got skills to make them even stronger. The Skinks don't have maybe the side steps, the jump ups, the sure feats, the things to kind of emphasize their characteristics as much, which maybe still make them easier to target than if they had a few skills on.
Yeah, and with what a wonderful world, you know. they've got two stat busted players. By the looks of things, he's fired the big and blocker because strength 3 big and blocker is what's the point? It's just it's just a line orc that can't catch. But he still kept the actual goblin, which is interesting because it's now got AV7. So and as long as he's going to keep him for like cannon fodder or something like that, just foul with maybe.
I think that's exactly what I was thinking, especially after what we saw Nick do with his Underworld team, chucking someone into a cage and watching it bounce and cause destruction. Rather than sack that goblin, he's a disposable bomb to just kind of chuck into a cage. So, I've got my next fixture is against Daryl coming up this weekend on Saturday. We're both of us with pretty beaten teams, so it will be interesting. I think he will gain about 100,000 inducements against me, so it'll be interesting to see what he uses that on. That's our last game this fixture this week. I won't go through all of the fixtures that are coming up. I will just highlight some of the ones that we are hoping to bring you here. So we're hoping to bring you tomorrow 11 a.m. If you're at work and you can have something on in the background. Riotous Rams, 2-time champions against inaugural champion OTFC with James. That's our championship matchup right there. I'm very excited. I'm going to have that sat on my desk watching that one.
Yeah, well, I've put that already in the diary. That's going to be a really interesting one. Yeah, James. I've played James multiple times, both in league and also in tournaments. And regardless of whoever he takes, he's got some very lucky dice and also very good skills. Playing against the current champion is going to be an interesting. Oh, sorry, previous champion will be an interesting one to see.
It's going to be a hell of a matchup, that one. We've then got on Thursday from 6 p.m. We've got World's Edge Berserkers versus Flumps. So we'll be bringing you some Goblin shenanigans on Thursday. That's going to be. I'm not going to be able to watch that one live, sadly. But as soon as I get home, I'm going to be flicking through and seeing what happened in that one. On Friday, we've got Tetanus Hot Spews versus the Iceborne Raiders, a repeat of last year's semi-final, so that will be an interesting one to see as well. And then Saturday, we are bringing you Word Hollow Wanderers versus our very own Scott's Spank Me Hardy, the Gentleman's Collective. So Rats... Gutter Runners versus Gutter Runners, and Rat Ogres versus Rat Ogres. That'll be a great one to see as well. And that's it. That's us for the day. Tom, thank you very much for joining us again.
Pleasure as always.
Thank you to Jane for joining us earlier. Thank you to anyone who's joined on the stream, who's watched and contributed. We really appreciate it. 4 games to bring you this week, and then we'll be back next Monday, 6:30, once again with the roundup. If you're playing a game this week and you want to come onto the roundup and join me, Tom, and Scott and chat about the game that you played or the other games that have happened in the fixture, just get in touch. We'd love to have some coaches on here to give their opinion on games. It would be great to have extra people. So, a huge thank you, and we will see you next time.